The Galactic Council had long stood as the ultimate authority in the galaxy, a conglomerate of ancient civilizations that ruled through fear and the promise of order. Their power was uncontested, upheld by technological superiority and an ironclad system of tribute imposed on every member species. Any race that sought to join the galactic community was required to pay a standard tribute, resources, military assets, or knowledge, submitting to the Council's authority in exchange for supposed protection. Most accepted this as an inevitable part of interstellar life, cowering under the Council's shadow. Their demands were always met, and their authority never questioned. When the Council turned its gaze toward humanity, it saw a relatively new and insignificant species. Having only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, humans were viewed as a minor race, barely worth the effort of subjugation. But the Council knew better than to leave even a potential threat unchecked. The tribute they demanded from Earth was more than mere wealth. They sought technological secrets, military advancements, and a vast sum of resources that would cripple Earth's ability to defend itself. The message was clear: humanity was not being welcomed as equals but was instead being sized up for control, its future existence dictated by the will of the Council. The demand arrived on Earth with all the weight of galactic inevitability. Leaders across the planet convened to debate their options, faced with the stark reality of the situation. The Council's reputation was known even in the farthest reaches of human space. They were an unstoppable force, with fleets capable of razing entire planets to dust. But what they demanded was more than Earth's material wealth. They sought to strip humanity of its independence, leaving it vulnerable, defenseless, and ultimately subservient. It wasn't just an insult, it was a threat to everything humanity had fought for, its sovereignty hanging in the balance. The debates were intense. Some called for negotiation, fearing that open defiance would lead to inevitable destruction. They pointed to the Council's history, the countless species that had been ground beneath their heel for refusing tribute. Others, particularly those in Earth's military leadership, argued that submission would only delay the inevitable. The Council wasn't asking for cooperation, they were demanding control. Giving in would only lead to further demands until humanity was a mere puppet state, its power diminished, and its people enslaved. After days of heated discussion, a decision was made. Humanity would not bow. There would be no tribute, no submission. The message they would send in response was simple but defiant, carrying a tone of finality that echoed humanity's resolve. Earth was no stranger to conflict, and they had faced existential threats before. This time, it was no different. The leaders of Earth agreed they would not surrender their future to an external power, no matter the cost. They had grown too strong, too resourceful to allow themselves to be bullied into submission. The formal refusal was sent to the Galactic Council, and its reception sent shockwaves through the halls of power. The Council, so accustomed to immediate compliance, was stunned by the sheer audacity of humanity's response. The message, direct and unflinching, carried no fear and no room for negotiation. The Council had expected a back and forth, perhaps a plea for more favorable terms. Instead, they were met with a flat-out refusal. Humanity had essentially declared that they would not be ruled. Anger rippled through the Council chambers. Who were these upstarts to deny their authority? It was unheard of, especially from such a young race. They saw Earth's response as nothing short of rebellion, an affront that had to be crushed quickly and decisively. If humanity's defiance were allowed to stand, it might inspire others. Already, whispers of dissent stirred in distant corners of the galaxy, and the Council could not afford to appear weak. The decision was swift. A fleet, one of the most powerful in the galaxy, was mobilized to deal with the situation. Earth would be made an example, a warning to anyone who might consider defying the Council's will. Other species across the galaxy watched with growing unease. Many had faced the Council's wrath before, and the outcome had always been the same: total annihilation of the resisting forces. Some pitted humanity, believing them too inexperienced and isolated to understand the full scale of the disaster they had invited upon themselves. They expected a swift and brutal punishment. Earth, they thought, was doomed. As the Council's fleet prepared to make its journey to Earth, humanity's counterplay was already in motion. This wasn't a species caught off guard. They had seen the demand for what it was, an inevitable challenge that was only a matter of time. Earth's military had been planning for this day, quietly building its defenses, advancing its technology, and preparing for the moment when they would face the galactic powers. For years they had worked in secret, perfecting weapons and strategies that even the Council hadn't seen before. As the Council's fleet approached Earth, expecting to find a weakened and fearful world, what awaited them was something entirely different. From the depths of space, Earth's fleet emerged, an armada of battleships, sleek and deadly, each equipped with cutting-edge weaponry and state-of-the-art defenses. This wasn't a ragtag collection of hastily assembled ships. This was a force designed for one purpose: to defend humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council's fleet, though vast and formidable, hesitated. They hadn't expected such a response. Humanity, it seemed, had been preparing for this confrontation for a long time. The sheer number of ships, their advanced capabilities, and the precision with which they moved spoke volumes. These were not the actions of a species about to surrender. Humanity's readiness was a revelation, a statement of intent. The Council had come expecting to deal a swift blow, to cow Earth into submission. Instead, they were faced with a force that rivaled their own. The battleships, bristling with plasma cannons, energy shields, and other technologies the Council had never seen, stood in stark defiance. The tables had turned. The Council, once so sure of their dominance, now faced a species that had not only refused their tribute but had prepared to meet their wrath head-on. In the silence before the storm, the message was clear. Humanity would not be intimidated, would not be conquered. The Council's assumption of superiority had been their first mistake. This wasn't the same galaxy they had ruled uncontested for millennia. A new power had emerged, one that would not bow to tyranny. The battle began with the vast, imposing presence of the Galactic Council's fleet. It was a spectacle of interstellar might, warships of all shapes and sizes, drawn from various member species, each brimming with destructive power. The Council's confidence was palpable. They had crushed countless rebellions before, and this would be no different. The sight of humanity's fleet, though impressive in size, didn't shake their assurance. They saw this as another minor insurrection to be snuffed out before it could spread. But humanity didn't wait. The first salvo came from Earth's forces, catching the Council off guard. Rather than engaging in traditional formations, humanity's ships moved with unnerving speed and precision, utilizing rapid, coordinated strikes that left the Council scrambling to respond. The opening moments were a shock, a stark contrast to the slow, lumbering engagements the Council was used to. Humanity's ships darted in and out of range, their energy weapons slicing through Council defenses with devastating effect. What should have been a slow, overpowering advance by the Council turned into a chaotic exchange, humanity's fleet striking from angles and at speeds that the Council had not anticipated. Humanity's technological evolution, hidden from the wider galaxy, now revealed itself in full. Energy weapons, far more advanced than anything the Council had expected, pierced through shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. But it wasn't just the raw power of the weapons that turned the tide. Humanity had developed adaptive shield technology, energy barriers that shifted and evolved in real time to counter incoming fire. Every time the Council's ships recalibrated their weapons, humanity's shields adapted faster, absorbing and redirecting energy in ways that seemed impossible. Behind these technological advancements was an AI-driven strategy system that allowed humanity's fleet to operate with near-perfect efficiency. While the Council's ships relied heavily on organic commanders and traditional tactics, humanity's forces were an intricate dance of automated systems and human oversight. Drones swarmed the battlefield, controlled by advanced AI, reacting faster than any living pilot could. These drones weren't just cannon fodder. They executed precise strikes on critical systems, cutting through the Council's fleet like a scalpel. Every human casualty was minimized, every ship's movements optimized to gain the upper hand. What the Council had dismissed as a ragtag group of ships was in fact a well-oiled machine, perfectly coordinated and meticulously prepared for this moment. Each human ship functioned as part of a larger whole, utilizing swarm tactics and cutting-edge automation to outmaneuver and outgun the Council's fleet. The Council's commanders, who had relied on overwhelming force and slow, methodical tactics in the past, found themselves unable to keep pace with the fluidity of humanity's strategy. At first, the Council dismissed these developments as luck or primitive cleverness. They believed their sheer numbers and superior technology would inevitably win out. But as more of their ships were cut down with startling efficiency, doubt began to creep in. Humanity was not just another tributary species. This was a civilization that had grown in the shadows, developing technology that rivaled their own, perhaps even surpassed it in some ways. What they had taken for granted, that their technological superiority would carry them through, was now their downfall. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for innovation, for adaptation, and for using whatever tools were available to them in ways the Council had never considered. The Council's overconfidence blinded them to the danger they were in until it was too late. Humanity's weapons weren't just powerful, they were unconventional. Their strategies weren't bound by tradition or by what the Council considered proper warfare. Midway through the battle, the Council's admiral received reports of systems being hacked, communications disrupted, and weaponry malfunctioning. Humanity had not only anticipated the Council's tactics, they had prepared counters for them. Ships that should have been impervious to assault suddenly found themselves crippled by cyberattacks, their targeting systems thrown into disarray by the sophisticated infiltration methods employed by Earth's forces. Panic spread through the Council's fleet. The once coordinated armada fell into chaos as humanity's hidden weapons systems unleashed devastating surprise attacks. Missiles erupted from seemingly inert debris fields, long-dormant satellite systems activated in low orbit, and invisible mines detonated in the midst of the Council's ships. What had started as a show of dominance by the Council turned into a desperate scramble for survival. The Council's admiral, who had once been so certain of a swift victory, was now watching his fleet disintegrate before his eyes. He couldn't understand how this could be happening. A lesser species, one that hadn't even been deemed worthy of full Council membership, was tearing through his armada. His attempts to regain control, to adapt his own tactics, came too late. Every countermeasure he attempted was met with another innovation from humanity's fleet, another layer of strategy that he had not anticipated. By the time the tide had fully turned, the Council's fleet was in full retreat. Ships that had once flown in perfect formation were now limping away, battered and broken. Humanity had not only won the battle, they had humiliated the Galactic Council. What was meant to be a message to the galaxy about the futility of resisting Council rule had become a testament to humanity's strength, ingenuity, and resilience. The Admiral, his pride shattered, ordered the retreat. What was left of the once mighty fleet drifted away from Earth's forces, crippled and in disgrace. The Council, for all its power, had underestimated the very things that made humanity dangerous: their creativity, their resourcefulness, and their refusal to be ruled. In the end, it wasn't just technology that had won the day, but humanity's unyielding spirit and their ability to think beyond the constraints of tradition. As the last of the Council's ships disappeared into the void, humanity stood victorious. The battle had been hard fought, but they had shown the galaxy that they were not a species to be taken lightly. The Galactic Council, once so sure of its place at the top of the galactic hierarchy, now faced the reality of a new power rising, a power that had just proven it could not only stand up to them but defeat them in open combat. The Galactic Council convened in a somber chamber, its once vibrant air of superiority replaced by an oppressive weight of disbelief. The defeat they had suffered at humanity's hands was not just a military loss, it was an existential blow. The Council, accustomed to ruling the galaxy with impunity, was now forced to confront the reality of their vulnerability. Murmurs filled the hall as leaders from various species debated their next move. Whispers of rebellion from previously cowed species began to circulate, emboldened by humanity's victory. The Council was divided. Some argued that another strike against Earth was necessary to reassert their dominance. They believed that their forces had simply been unlucky, that another, more coordinated attack would crush humanity before they could become an even bigger threat. But others, more cautious, feared that a second conflict would only escalate into a full-scale war, one that the Council could no longer be certain of winning. The defeat had cracked their veneer of invincibility, and any further losses could unravel their centuries of control. A stalemate emerged, with the Council unsure whether to retaliate or retreat into damage control. Either choice could signal the beginning of the end for their reign. On Earth, the aftermath of victory was complex. The celebrations were immediate and euphoric. Humanity had stood against a galactic superpower and triumphed. The returning fleet was hailed as a symbol of Earth's strength and unity. But beneath the surface of the celebrations, there was a sobering realization. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Humanity's leaders gathered to reflect on what had been achieved, and what might come next. They had thrown off the yoke of the Council's demands, but in doing so, they had made powerful enemies. Earth's government recognized that this victory had only bought time. The Council, wounded and humiliated, would not simply vanish. The defeat had shaken them, but the potential for future conflict was high. Humanity now occupied a precarious position, one where they were no longer the scrappy underdog but a legitimate galactic power. The question weighing on the minds of Earth's leaders was how long their new status could be sustained without sparking further retaliation. News of the Council's defeat spread like wildfire across the galaxy, sending ripples through civilizations both large and small. For the first time in millennia, a species had not only defied the Council but bested them in open conflict. This shifted the galactic order, as species that had long accepted the Council's dominance began to reconsider their own positions. Many of them, once too afraid to challenge the Council, now saw humanity as a beacon of resistance, a symbol that the seemingly unshakable authority of the Council could indeed be challenged. Diplomatic channels that had long been closed to Earth suddenly opened wide. Alien species, some of them oppressed or subjugated by the Council, sought to establish alliances with humanity. They viewed Earth as a potential protector, a rising power that might help liberate them from the Council's influence. Human diplomats found themselves in high demand, negotiating with species that had previously ignored them. Humanity's strength, ingenuity, and unorthodox tactics became subjects of both admiration and caution throughout the galaxy. But not all species were eager to align themselves with Earth. Some viewed humanity as a dangerous wildcard, capable of upending the fragile balance of power. These species feared that humanity's unpredictable nature, which had allowed them to succeed in battle, could just as easily lead to further chaos and destruction. They saw humanity not as a liberator but as a potential tyrant, an unpredictable force that might one day rival the Council in its ambition. As whispers of admiration spread, so too did whispers of fear. Would humanity become the next great oppressor, or would they forge a new, more just order? No one could say for certain. As the dust settled from the battle, the galaxy found itself at a crossroads. Humanity's victory had irrevocably shifted the balance of power, but what came next was uncertain. The Galactic Council, though damaged, remained a formidable entity. They would undoubtedly be plotting their next move, and Earth could not afford to become complacent. Any future conflicts would likely be even more brutal, as the Council sought to reclaim its place at the top of the galactic hierarchy. But the Council wasn't the only concern. Other species, seeing humanity's rise, began to maneuver for their own advantage. Some sought to ally with Earth, hoping to ride their coattails to power, while others plotted in secret, fearing that humanity would one day turn its newfound strength against them. Humanity now stood at a precipice. They had proven themselves a force to be reckoned with, but that also meant they had painted a target on their back. In this new galactic order, the lines between friend and foe blurred. Earth's leaders understood that their position of strength would be tested again, whether by the Council, by jealous rivals, or by those seeking to exploit their rise. New alliances would need to be forged, and old grudges would resurface. The galaxy was a vast and treacherous place, and though humanity had won a great victory, the path forward was fraught with danger. The future was uncertain. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as a subservient race, but as a power to be respected and feared. Yet with this newfound respect came greater challenges. The Council was wounded but not defeated. Rivals watched and waited for any sign of weakness. And humanity itself, while united for now, might face internal divisions as they navigated their new role. The battle had been won, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy